Now, one of the things, if people look at your resume or LinkedIn profile, they'll recognize this. And you moved to the United States a couple of years into the role. Tell me what, and I always everyone's always got a different story. What was the desire to do that from your perspective? And then how do you think, was it a conscious career choice, or is it I want an adventure?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I think a little of everything. But I mean, let me tell you how it happened. So I'd gotten more and more specialized, or I guess maybe not. I was approaching new technologies in Australia. I wouldn't say I was bored, but certainly doing Active Directory risk assessments every week wasn't as exciting as it originally was. And so we're sort of branching out. This Azure and Entra product offering was just sort of blooming. So, can I do more there? As customers adopt this, can I help guide them and things like that? So really trying to push myself to do new and interesting things. I then found myself acquiring some pretty specialized skills. I was going so deep in this relatively new product that there were few people that had the same set of skills. And so I remember getting a call early one morning from someone, and they were in Atlanta, and they said, "Hey, look, seen you in the intranet. We've got this role in Atlanta. We need a specialized identity person for this big customer, and we think you'd be perfect." I was like, "Look, not keen to get to Atlanta, but thank you so much." And so there must have, at this point I was training people, I was doing all sorts of stuff. I was trying to be as active as I could in the community. And so I guess I had some infamy or something to that extent. And I remember, a few weeks later getting a call from Seattle from someone in Redmond that was sort of similar conversation. I said, look, I'm sorry. I've been to Seattle in the winter. I'm pretty happy where I am. Thanks so much. And so, it's getting approached. And so it that was the trigger to start me thinking. It's like, well, I'm certainly not stagnant, but I'm looking for new opportunities, new challenges, things to push me. This is interesting. Maybe not moving to Seattle interesting. I remember I was in the Philippines doing some training, and finally I got this call. I was walking home from a dinner back to the hotel, and this guy, this really Northern Californian guy, Brian, if you're watching, and he was like, "Marc Jordan, I need you in my team." And I was like, who is this and what do you want? And so he introduced himself, said, we've got all these massive customers, Silicon Valley ones you'd probably expect, and they have these problems, and I think you can help us out. And I was like, look, give me a minute to think about that. So he called me back the next week when I was back home, and I said, look, I'm in, let's do it. And so started that process. And so, George, to answer your question, part just let's have an adventure, let's go and push this, but part I'm always looking for ways that I can sort of broaden my horizons and scratch that itch of like, well, what is this thing? Like, I want to understand, I want to lean into this thing and understand it. So I've always got this sort of latent curiosity.
Well, that's cool. It's almost like you're headhunted internally, which is quite funny. Yeah. I think that the thing I always find that's cool about that was we always talk about this, the connections that you make with people. For those watching. So Mark ended up working for somebody I currently work with, which is Erin Jacobson. Erin, hello. I'm going to point this, if she'll watch this, I'm going to tell her about this podcast, vlogcast, whatever we call it these days. So there you go. So it was more the adventure and a lot of those aspects that you're thinking about in your career. What's the challenge? What's going to keep you going? But then the adventure was just sort of a side bonus. It wasn't really the driver for you.
Yeah, I mean, I love San Francisco. I lived there for, I've only been back in Australia now for about 6 months, lived there for 11 years. And, massively grateful to the team, for Brian in particular, for sort of getting me over there and supporting me. And, moving countries is no big deal. Is a big deal, but it's, having that connection, having that support, that was just amazingly valuable to my career, but also just to my life in general. I mean, living in San Francisco for 11 years is a dream come true. So it was really amazing.
Cool. What are some of the things that you would say to somebody who's moving country, whether it's intentional or not, in the role that they're doing? Are there things that you would avoid doing if you ever did that? If you were saying to yourself back then, hey, Mark, don't do this or try to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm sounding a bit like a broken record, but when you're moving country, like, put yourself out there, get out, whether it's, you're in the office, attend work happy hours, or it's, like-minded people attending events after work, or whatever the case is, like, do that. When you move, you've got to build that base and that foundation, and that network will help you succeed. And so absolutely do that. I think in terms of not doing, I think it's like people underestimate how much they can they can get done in a year. And so be kind to yourself. Like it's easy to get there and get frustrated that it's hard to get a credit card, or it's hard, like, don't beat yourself up is what I'm getting at here. Like it takes time, enjoy the rides. Like moving country, whether it's just you or you bring in, a partner and 6 kids and 3 dogs, like it's going to take time. It's going to be challenging. Like be kind to yourself. That I think, I'm an impatient person, I think, in a lot of ways. Like I want things to move faster. I want to push things. And certainly wasn't helpful necessarily in getting where I was going early on, because some stuff just takes time and you have to sort of appreciate the ride and not beat yourself up, beat over it.